All right, everybody. I've got this week two awesome guests for y'all. Everybody, please welcome to the show Steffon Thomas and Christopher Ikpoh. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Hello,
Thank you
hello.
for having
Thank you
us.
for having us.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to meet you guys. Hope everything's doing well on your end. But
Yeah.
we've got a lot to talk about today. So I start these with kind of an origin story, but I think the better way with two guests is to say, how did you two kind of meet up and decide to go on this adventure together?
Well, that's a great question because we played basketball in college together, and little Division III school out in the middle of nowhere, Ohio, called Oberlin College. Chris was the star of the team. He was the man. He was our number one guy. He was the guy who took us to the promised land. I was the captain of the practice squad. I was the third string point guard.
Steph handed out work. He handed out work in practice. Don't let him fool you.
We got to play.
You
We
got
got
the
to
play
be
sheet.
the other team. Like I got to be the best player on the other team that we were scouting, and so I would have to like act like that guy. So, but that's how we met.
Yeah.
And I was at Oberlin actually getting a writing degree, a creative writing degree. And so after I graduated from college, I started pursuing that, and I did some odd jobs here and there. I worked at American Greetings, the card company. I wrote greeting cards for like 4 years, and then
First tangent. I
Yeah.
I secretly love greeting cards. Like whenever it's a holiday, I'm so excited to find the stupid greeting cards of like the T-Rex, like I want to hug you or whatever. How much fun is that job?
it was amazing. It was one of the biggest creative departments in the country. Like it was over 500 creative people in this building. It was nuts. Like just yeah, it was really super creative. About 100 writers and editors, and yeah, it was so much fun. And so I did that for a little while as I was beginning to pursue my career in screenwriting. But on the side, I was also helping people edit their books. So Chris, who had been working in had gotten a pre-law degree and was working in like finance and sales and all these things that were like super not creative. All of a sudden I get this text message or email or whatever. He's like, "Hey man, how's it going?" I'm like, "Hey, it's going well." He said, "I got this. I got this thing. I think you can help me with." I'm like, "Oh, what is it?" He's like, "I wrote a book. I wrote a novel." I was like, "Wait, you did a what?" And so I said, "Oh, okay, like, send it on through." And I get this email with this 500-page manuscript. He didn't just write a book. He wrote like a saga. So we started working together on that. At the time, one of my writing mentors had said, "Hey, as you're continuing to move forward, do some stuff that you can get out to the people while you're working on your big stuff." So I came up with this idea of saying like, "Oh man, like what if I took some of my movie character or some of my characters from some of my screenplays I was working on and put them out on my website, just wrote stories about them." And so then I was thinking about, man, what if I can make this a little bit bigger? I started looking at all the characters in the 500-page manuscript that was coming from Chris, and I was like, what if we took your characters and combined them with my characters and we made our own little universe? And so then we started kind of chopping it up and talking about that. And that's kind of how Project 365, which I'm sure we'll talk about, came to fruition.
So safe to assume, Christopher, that manuscript was a superhero story.
It was not superhero. It was like if you mix the Bible with Castlevania with Lord of the Rings, that's what that was. And it was a work that I had started when we were in school and just kept working on over the years, and it transformed into this and it transformed into that, and eventually it landed where it was when I sent it to Steph. And when he sent it back to me, I mean, I call Steph the Abbot. That's his moniker, because he's a master and within the creative world. And so, if this was a kung fu movie, I'd be climbing the steps on the side of the mountain to go see Steph at the top, because that's where the abbot lives, right? He always lives at the top of the mountain, right? And on top of all those steps. And so, so the abbot put his touch on it, got it back to me, and then, from there, he introduced me to his idea for Project 365, and that's when I kind of shifted over to the superhero universe building realm, and here we are today.
Did you both have like a love for superhero stuff prior to this?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Like I mean, I grew up collecting like the Marvel cards. I don't know if you remember, like you can go to the little, corner store and pick up little packages of Marvel cards. That's like I got into comic books through the cards, not even through the books initially. I was just collecting cards, and the only thing I knew about superheroes was what was on the back of their card. That little 100 words or so, and that's how I got introduced into like the comic book world, and then started reading comics and all kinds of stuff. And then, we were graduating. We were in college when the Marvel movie thing kind of took off, with the X-Men movies and the Spider-Man movies. And I mean, so definitely was all about being, there on midnight to watch the movies when they came out, that kind of thing. I was one of those people. Never really dressed up. Not that I'm against it. It's cool. I don't mind it.
I'm in the same boat, man. Like I don't even want to dress up for a Halloween party.
So,
Yeah, and when I was growing up, my introduction to it was the X-Men animated series. So every Saturday morning, I was down in front of that TV, Fox Kids, X-Men come on, like that was it for me, and that got me into the comic books, and then started collecting the action figures. And we would do we had like our own football league, and so we would have all the figurines, and we'd break them up into teams, and then we'd like reenact like an NFL game, and then we record fake stats in a notebook and stuff. And so it was all of those kind of things. And then from there, like Steph said, when the movies started coming out, the Spider-Man movies, Blade was, I think, what really sucked me in as far as the comic books, superhero films, and then X-Men, so on and so forth. So, yeah.
So it's interesting because I've always had this conversation with some of my contemporaries, quote unquote, in this industry and my friends. And I've always seen a big connection between the sports world and the comics world. Mind you, growing up watching the Eagles, Brian Dawkins, Weapon X, like that connection was very early on in my love for sports. But did you see a lot of that when you guys were playing? Were your other teammates really into this stuff, or at least have a passing interest in it?
I think so. Yeah, we had. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think for us, because the crossover is there within hip hop too, right?
Yeah.
Steph is a massive Wu-Tang fan. I'm a huge Wu-Tang fan. You look at the Wu-Tang Clan, you got, Ghostface Killer, aka Tony Starks, aka Pretty Tony. It's like all across hip hop and hip hop culture, you have that crossover. So I think that, like you said, naturally also bleeds into the sports world. And so coming up, my teammates were always cognizant of what's going on with at least the popular characters, right? Batman, Superman, the X-Men, Spider-Man, and all that. And then every now and then you come across a teammate who's as much into it as you are. And, that's kind of cool. But Steph, what about you coming up? Did you have the same thing?
Oh yeah, definitely. So like I grew up in New York City, and like basketball, was king, right, in New York, right? So although my favorite player growing up was actually Allen Iverson, I never said that out loud. That's
Yeah, you don't say that in New York City.
Don't say that. But I mean, you always have people. They would, they would literally be saying things like, "Oh, you're like Batman out there." You're like, like if you moved with a certain fluidity or agility, you'd be like Spider-Man. They were always comparing people to superheroes out on the court. So no, yeah, there was definitely that crossover. I mean, especially when you had somebody who was, you know, really dope, and they would always be slapped with Superman, you know, oh, you're Superman out there, all that stuff, right? Even though we could talk about if Superman really meant you were the best or not. So,
Dude, it's about. I remember one year I was at New York Comic Con, and afterwards we were going out to this bar, and we were supposed to be going to Brooklyn. Friend knew a friend who lived in Brooklyn. We were gonna go up there. He, mind you, I'm an upstate New Yorker, so like all that New York City life, that's a completely different world from where I live, you know. And we're down there, and he's like, "Yeah, well, let's get on the subway and we'll do it." We go on the wrong subway. We end up in the Bronx. And I'm wearing an Eagles shirt and a Phillies hat. And I'm like, guys, we need to get out of here before I get stabbed. And everybody's like, what are you talking about, man? That's, you know, it's not like that here. That's a little racist. I'm like, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the fact that I'm in full Philly gear. And some Yankees fan's going to come out of nowhere and just smack me, man. Like, we need to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Turn that shirt inside out. Oh man!
So
yeah.
I get where you're coming from, man.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah. I always felt like, but there's just a strong contingency on like in our nerdy world of like, you know, the sports ball. Oh, it's just sports ball or whatever. I'm like, you guys, there's such a crossover here. Like, you need to welcome these people in. Like, those people love it, and I can attest as. I'm the guy you guys hated in high school. I played football. I played baseball. Like, but in the background, dude, you better believe I was still playing Pokemon and reading my comics. Like,
Yeah.
like, yeah, people out there loved it.
oh my goodness, so much.
I never got the. I guess if, mind you, I was 6'1" in high school, so I didn't get picked on a whole lot. So maybe if I was 5'2", I was getting picked on or something, I might feel a little different. But
Yes.
Yeah. Being a 6'1" football player kind of makes the comic book love go over easier with other people.
yeah,
As opposed to the 5'2" nerd who doesn't have that same physical stature. But I get what you're saying. I think because you know what's interesting too is not just in the sports world, but even like within the Black community, right? There seems to be this stigma. We were talking about people dressing up earlier and cosplaying, and like just was it yesterday or 2 days? No, it was this weekend. I'm sorry, this past weekend. My wife and I were out at a mall, and we saw these two teenage high school girls fully dressed up, head to toe, just walking around the mall, head to toe, pink wigs, full anime, cosplay on, the whole nine. And we thought it was dope. So, my wife went up to them and said, "Hey, I just want to let you know you guys are rocking. You look great. Like, we think the cosplay is amazing. Da 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 da. You guys are living your best life and everything." But I think there's still that, and their reaction was, "Oh my God, thank you so much!" Like, they were so surprised, and they were genuinely, joyful to hear that from somebody, because I think the stigma or the way it's still seen amongst the wider public is, oh, that's either very niche or, oh, that's nerdy. Oh, they're geeks, right? Like, nah, like that's not cool. But Chris, to your point, like so many people are into it on some level, right? Like a varying degree. And it's like, I don't know. I don't know if we need to open the door up wider, or if we just kind of need to continue on the path of trying to make this the mainstream pop culture, because so many people love comic books, love comic book characters, love comic book stories. It's like, we don't need to fake the funk anymore, guys. We all love it. Like, let's just all come together and love it together,
We rule the world now. Avengers Endgame was the biggest thing that ever happened. Like,
Yes.
It's over. We won. We don't need to prove ourselves no more.
Right.
No, so that kind of brings up where I'd like to go next, because there's something in your press release that really I'd always felt personally, but it's hard as the white guy in the room to express it, which is you guys have said that your whole thing is to try to bring more people of color into the superhero genre and more representation and all that. And you feel like Marvel and DC aren't doing a great job of it. And then there was one thing in here that, as much as I loved, as like a side note, when Jane Foster became Thor, or when Sam Wilson becomes Cap, like those are great stories. I enjoyed them. But I did always kind of feel that the backlash to that while being really weird, it did feel to me like, why are we replacing the heroes we love with these other people when we could, like Falcon, for instance, because I'm a big Cap fan. Falcon is a great hero on his own.
Yeah.
Like, he's had series on his own. And we've seen characters like Dick Grayson become this next thing and become huge sensations because of it. Why doesn't Falcon just get that blow up? Why does he have to become Captain America? So from your guys' perspective, I mean, you obviously feel the same way based on what I'm reading here, but kind of, can you express that a little bit from your perspective to me?
Sure. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. We love Miles Morales, right? Miles Morales, great
Yes.
story, amazing, right? All that stuff. And we also understand that this is something that's been happening in comic books for 100 years. A new guy or a new gal comes and takes on the mask. Like, that's not anything like new for comic books, right? That's been happening. There's been what, 1 million Green Lanterns and and all that stuff. So we know that that's a thing. But just in the popular, when it became, in the movies and the popular, like you said, comic books and comic book movies have took over the world for a long time, and hopefully they're making a little bit of a comeback and everything. But that whole idea of, I call them hand-me-down heroes, right? It's like, all right, like Captain America is amazing. Let's make him black. And I'm like, I want to see more black people on screen. I want to see it, but I kind of want them to do their own thing. Like, it's like, I love Captain America. I'm like, I don't have anything against, I don't care that he's white. I was like, yeah, it's cool. That's part of who he is. That's part of his story. So I always wanted it to be, something where we get these new characters and be brave and create some new characters. And Marvel did that with like a Falcon, with the Luke Cage, with the Black Panther. Like, they've done it, but then the idea that when we get on the big screen and it's like, well, to be safe, we need to make sure that we have a name that people recognize. They recognize Captain America, then we put, another face, or they recognize Thor, then we put, a woman in the role. I think that they kind of set themselves up for backlash, where you could have literally been like, hey, let's create this new character next to these characters that you already know and love. Then let's take them and, like you said, ramp them up to be just as important, so that they don't feel like secondary and hand-me-down. Like, you built up these other characters in this amazing way, you can also build up these other new characters in an amazing way. So, like, representation is amazing, but it also has to be done in the right way. Because I don't want to be pandered to. I don't want to be like, hey, look, we made her black.
Well, and we did this before. Like, Milestone did this for DC back in the day. And
Absolutely.
yeah, only one of those characters really blew up and is a big thing. We're talking about Static Shock here.
Yeah.
But there's a whole slew of characters in that vein that are their own, like, while they're connected to the DC universe and the DC characters in a certain way, they're their own characters and heroes in their own right. Like, I thought when that, in terms of comics, when that was going down, I think it was Marvel Generations, whatever they called it, I didn't have a problem with any of it personally. And I know there's shitty people out there, but I felt when I was looking around, I'm like, I think what people are pissed at is you changed everybody at the same time.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
now I have no remaining characters that I knew from all these years, except for like one. And, but I also I sat back and I'm like, okay, there was, like, the Thor story was amazing, don't get me wrong. And Sam's a fine Cap, but I do prefer Steve personally. And all these things, but I just felt like you kind of threw a bunch of spaghetti at the wall and, like, two of them stuck.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Where if you really put your nose to the grindstone, like you did with Kamala Khan, for instance, and Static Shock, you could have a great character outside of the traditional just bland white character that would stick around for the long haul. And I get it, it's easy, and brand recognition, and I shouldn't say negative things about Disney right now, but Disney and big corporations and all that, I get it.
We still love the creators.
Yeah, I love it, but I can criticize at the same time.
Hey, you can critique something you love.
Yeah. And I think a common misconception when you talk about branding, brand recognition, and that is that people won't take, or it'll be too difficult for people to take to those new characters once they're introduced. right? It might take too long for them to ramp up and get the type of support that we want them to have. Whereas if we kind of throw this character into the Cap uniform, then it'll take off, right away. And a story like with this character right here, Lieutenant General Richard Bonds, we were at WonderCon in Anaheim, and we had an exhibit there. And while we were, working the show, we were talking to people, and this guy comes up, and black guy comes up. He's talking to us. We're talking to him, and then out the corner of my eye, I see his son, his little son, maybe 8 years old, 9 years old at the most. And we had this poster on display, and he's just staring at the poster, like just staring at it. And it wasn't the kind of, who is this? So I'm interested in this. It was kind of like, he looks like me, right? And it's that recognition, that ability to see yourself in that character, and not to see yourself in the role that you've already known and that's everybody knows and has seen, and the story's been told a million times. It's something new, and and like he was just captivated by it, and that's important. That was what we wanted to set out to do, but that's what we continue to want to set out to do, is introduce these characters to people across the world. Hopefully they can see themselves in them and feel that sense of pride of, they're the center of this world. They're not a sidekick. They're not a sidekick that got promoted to, the top character for a mini series or the next movie or whatever. This is their world, right? And so by proxy, this is our world, and I can see myself living in it. And it's a whole different experience as a fan and as a reader or as a viewer when you have that take place, as opposed to, like Steph said, getting a hand-me-down hero.
Yeah. And I'm going to contradict myself a little bit with the story, because we're going to talk about Jon Stewart, the best Green Lantern. But my best friend, since we were like kids, is a black guy. And growing up, we watched the Justice League Unlimited show. And obviously me, Batman, I grew up watching Batman animated series. I'm all about Batman. And it didn't occur to me until later in life, his favorite superhero for our entire lives was Green Lantern. And like, never thought anything of it until I was an adult, and I was like, oh yeah, that was the one black guy in that cartoon. Like,
yeah.
So everything we just said, yeah. At the same time, like, I get it. I get why it's important to have kind of the hand-me-down hero in some instances, because that did affect my best friend growing up, and to this day. So yeah, I could see where someone like me takes. Someone like me, I look around and like half of Marvel, half of DC, probably a higher percentage than that, if we're being honest, looks like me, and so I don't see the issue that you guys might see, because I'm like, yeah, this is all good. I'm good with this. It isn't until you really like look into it that you're like, oh yeah, that's kind of a problem.
Yeah. Well, it's also a thing. It's wider across the entertainment industry too, right? Not just with Marvel, DC. It's just the entertainment industry in general. I remember when I was a little kid, and so my father, he moved to the States. He was Nigerian. Moved to the States when he was 17. Loved American pop culture, music, movies, TV shows. When he was growing up in Nigeria, they would, gather around the record player, listen to James Brown records and dance and, sing and all that kind of stuff. Like, just loved American pop culture. And so growing up, he would always bring movies home, movie night, right? Blockbuster Video, back when there were VHS tapes, VCRs. And I was definitely watching movies that no little kid should be watching. Like, I was way too young to be watching these movies, but he's like, family movie night. Yep. And we were watching, I think it was The Abyss. I think that was the movie we were watching. And within like the first 5-10 minutes of the movie, the first person that dies is the black character, which is obviously a horror movie trope, is why does the black character always got to die first, right? So I turned to my mom and my dad, I'm like, how come the black guys always die first in the movies? And they just start laughing, because like but we see this, right? Within our community, we recognize this from a young age, watching TV shows, watching movies. We recognize who looks like us, we identify with them, and then of course, when something bad happens to them, we're like, why they got to go out in the first 5 minutes of the movie, So it is very important, just across the entertainment industry in general, to have that representation, because it really does bring in the rest of the global audience to whatever it is that you're putting out there for them.
Yeah. And if I could jump in real quick, I think the other important thing is that you don't want to alienate the audience that's already been there. And I think that that was kind of something that was a point of tension over the last, like, 10, 15 years with, comic entertainment. And, we've seen it in Star Wars and Star Trek. We've seen it in, all these different huge franchises where it's like, well, we want to throw in something for other people, and everything, which is amazing, right? Like we appreciate the effort, but you also don't want to like insult the people who made you the $1 billion in the first place. So like that's also what we're very cognizant of, where it's like, we're not trying to be like, we want to put these characters above these characters. Like, no, we just want everybody to have a place at the table. Let's all play together, so.
And it's something, it's like an idea that I've been like mulling around for years now, because I really don't think that people en masse have as much of an issue as like social media makes it out to be.
Yeah.
But I think that what people are missing it through like all the yelling and the grifting and the bullshit is we forget that there's always been bad writing. Like, so, I mean, I go back, if you go to the MCU, everybody talks about how terrible the MCU is right now. And I'm like, I go back and watch those Thor movies. They were dog shit, guys. But we were so happy to get them.
Yeah.
And when the emphasis goes on to be like, well, we need to start doing representation, doing all this stuff, everybody points to, well, look how bad these are. And I'm like, well, yeah, but so much of your media in general, there's going to be bad media in there. Like, if it's all white characters, if it's all black characters, if it's whatever. And I think what you're missing is that through all this, there's people that aren't good at this, or that there's good writers that put out a bad story, or so on, so on, so on. Mm-hmm. And I think the microscope that's been put on creators, like not necessarily like you, but like people that are at Disney and Warner and all that, they're trying to make this shift. They're trying to turn the Titanic on a dime. Nobody's seeing through the fact that it's like we've always had bad stories, we've always had bad writing. Mm-hmm. It's just that you kind of put it down and then think about it, and now you're like, it's bad because they made him black, and you throw it down. Like, no, it would have been bad either way. Like, that creator wasn't good at that job. Like, that's just what it was.
Absolutely, yeah. That's definitely something that we talk about too. It's like a lot of times when people like, I know my wife and I talked about this when like Catwoman. Remember when the Halle Berry Catwoman came out? And it was not great, like, and it was, but our whole thing was like, man, people are going to see this and they're going to be like, see, that's why we can't make it when it bombs. That's why we can't make movies with black women. And it was like, the movie wasn't bad because she was a black woman. It was bad because it was poorly written, poorly constructed. Yeah. There were some ideas there, but they weren't executed right, so.
And I think people, I mean, we've kind of moved away from this, but I think people were rushing to the finish line for a minute there. So I'm a big James Bond fan, like love those movies. And I remember when Daniel Craig was leaving, and there was kind of murmurs of Idris Elba taking over the character. And I'm like, and the usual people were mad about it. But I was like, there's an interesting story of a black James Bond. There's something cool you can do with that, and interesting and different from what we've gotten for all these. I'm down for it because there's so much James Bond. Let's try something new. And then there was these like two people in the corner being like, make James Bond a woman. And I'm like, I'm sitting back going, it's not James Bond anymore, guys. Now you're doing diversity for diversity's sake, and not
creating franchise. It's like, I'd love to see a female spy do the things, like do a very similar kind of thing,
And that's what killed me is at that same time, Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting are putting out one of my favorite comics they did together, which was oh my god, I'm going to zone on the name, but it was a female version of James Bond. It was What If M was actually a spy all along, and like her past came back to haunt her. I'm like, there's your female James Bond story.
It's right there. Right there, yeah.
Like, yeah, you have to, yeah. It just, it killed me how many people are rushing to the finish line instead of like really trying to take the time and deliberately like, no, this is how we can build this and do it and create great characters that'll stand on their own past the initial, and not just, look how great I am for doing this. And there was a lot of both on that,
Sure.
Yeah. And so you guys are creating this superhero universe now, and what I loved when I was reading about it was you're not just doing comics. You're doing all. I mean, I see you got short films. There's talks of some novelizations in here. What was kind of? Is it really just, hey, we want to do this creative thing, so let's do it? Or is there a Marvel MCU style plan of what you guys have going on here? Like, how is your creative process going with all this?
Man. Well, which
do
you want to get started with Project 365, or do you want to get started with Trinity, which is the cinematic TV universe that we're cooking up?
The short answer is, like, I mean, yes, we have a passion for creating, and I mean, but our logo is, I'm blanking on our own logo.
Imagination without limitation.
Imagination without limitation. Like, we like to take things. The creative extreme is called the creative extreme for a reason, because we want to take things to the extreme. So the short answer is world domination. But go ahead, Chris.
Global domination. So yeah, we had two different processes, right? Because when we first got started, it was Project 365, and Steph was like, "Hey, man, I think we can do this." And it was me, Steffon was another person. We shout out to Jamal when we got started. Jamal had to bow out pretty early on, so Steph and I took the torch and carried it to the finish line. But it was the initial part of, let's just see if we can put out one character a day, and not just put out one character a day, because we didn't want to just come out and say, January 1st, Strong Man. January 2nd, Speed Man. Like, we didn't want to just come out with generic, like, we wanted to do great storytelling. So the process was, we lined up, Steph lined up January for the most part. He had a bunch of stuff in the vault, came out with it. The Abbott put together incredible stories. We got the artwork, he had the artwork already. And then from there, we had a little bit of a buffer, right? Like a lead into the year. So we immediately got started planning the back half of January, and Steph came to me. He was like, "Hey, man, I think it would be pretty dope if we could do like a ninja samurai storyline." And I'm like, "Well, I took some East Asian study classes in college, and I grew up watching and loving ninja stuff and samurai stuff." I said, "Let me take a crack at it." So we came up with the second half of January, created those characters, wrote those stories, linked up with some artists. They put together the art for us. We had January locked in. February came. Steph had that on lock. The Sister Click saga had the artwork, had the stories, put it out, filled in the gaps along the way. But eventually we kind of settled it in on our process where we would sit down and we would just be staring at a blank spreadsheet. And that was the month. And we would go through and be like, okay, what characters are we going to put in each day? Put those characters in, line them up. Who are they? What's their name? What's their superhero name? What's their power set or their abilities? What's their origin story? And then the key part for us was, how does this character tie into the overarching story that's taking place? And how do they help move the saga along, right? Not just insert a character just to insert a character, but making every single entry meaningful in some way. And those sessions would last about 8-9 hours. And it was a lot of work and planning, a lot of tangents, a lot of crazy talk. But eventually we would get to where we needed to get to. And then we would assign those characters out to the different artists. We had about, 20 stuff?
Yeah, it had
25 different artists
were working with us, yeah.
Yeah, across the globe, from here to Australia to Canada to the Middle East. So we had a bunch of different artists, and the art would come in, we matched it up with the characters. Sometimes the art didn't come in on time. We'd have to shuffle the order, that the stories would come out and kind of rework things from a story perspective. But that's how we carried out. And then we were able to finish it up. And Project 365 came to a conclusion. And then when it came to a conclusion, it was kind of like, right, well, what's next? Right? Do we do part 2 Project 365 and do a whole nother year? Do we get into something else? And that's when Steph was like, well, our goal when we set out to do this wasn't just to create a new universe for comic books and readers, but it was to bring our stuff to the masses through film, through streaming or TV, as well as through the comic books and the graphic novels. let's start writing some screenplays, man. Let's start getting into that. And so then we kind of started transforming into the different storytelling methods of short stories, novelizations, screenplays, scripts, so on and so forth.
And so, how much media have you put out there in terms of shorts, comics, graphic novels? How much is out there right now?
So we have probably we have a couple dozen like short stories kind of on our website, kind of few things here and there that we played with. But we've done one graphic novel, one graphic novel. We put out anthologies of Project 365. We have a short film out based on Lieutenant Richard Bonds. We released that last year,
Late last year.
Yeah, November. Yeah. It was like November. Released that. And then we've honestly been in conversations with different production companies and different outlets here for the last little while. Got a few little development things in place that we can't necessarily talk about. Conversations that we've been having and things of that nature. But the overwhelming majority of the stuff has been like offshoots of Project 365 and putting that out and more. So we haven't been to a Comic-Con in a couple of years, but we did at our Comic-Cons that we would go to where we would present, we would have the anthologies ready, and it would be a lot. That's how we built our audience, is really do those Comic-Cons and connecting with people there. It's how we built our initial audience and how we met some of the connections that has brought us into other parts of entertainment. And yeah, what am I missing, Chris?
Yeah, the short film is titled Alpha Initiative Zero. It's available for streaming. We partnered with a wonderful organization, VetStreamTV, VET Stream TV. So it's streaming on their website, VetStreamTV.com. They are an organization that's run and operated by military veterans, and they put out content that is made by military veterans or made for military veterans. When our executive producer, shout out to James Gavsey, amazing dude, he linked up with a gentleman named Michael Lear, who has done fight choreography and stunt work for John Wick films, the John Wick TV show that was on Amazon, what was it called? The Continental, Fast and the Furious, Mortal Kombat movie. I mean, he's been in the game for a minute and done a lot of great things. Brought him on board to direct, to do the fight choreography for a short, based it off our graphic novel. They called in some favors from a bunch of amazing talent, actors, and stunt people who came in to play the roles of the characters. And man, it ended up being an amazing short film project, which also kind of doubles as our proof of concept, right? To show people, hey, this is what we can do on our own. And we think it's incredible. So anybody can go to VetStreamTV.com to watch the Alpha Initiative Zero short. We also premiered a film that we co-wrote with another college basketball player / good friend of ours. Shout out to Maurice Elrod. The film, it's a feature film. It's called Make Yourself at Home. It's currently streaming on the Fox Soul app, whether it's on your Fire Stick, smart TV, on your phone. It's a home invasion suspense thriller movie, so not related to our comic book stuff, but it's another project that we, worked on, co-wrote, and is currently streaming. So we have that out there. And then, as Steph mentioned, we have a ton of other screenplays, scripts for series that we've been writing that have been discussed, and we're looking to get out there. And then we have another project coming up called The Requisite, which is currently in development, and we're getting started talking to people, trying to get the the director and the cast and everything together, get the budget together for that. So we got a bunch of stuff in the pipeline coming up, but most of it's based off of Project 365 and the stuff we have there. But we delineate it between Project 365, which is completely on our website for free, all 365 chapters, plus a secret hidden chapter that if you read through it, you can find it, but we don't label it for you. That's Project 365. Our films and our TV scripts for streaming series and so forth, that's Trinity. That's our MCU, our cinematic and streaming universe.
Those are completely different characters from 365?
Similar characters, a bunch of the same characters, but we just expanded individual worlds, right? So we have our pretty much focusing on our top 10 right now. The feedback that we got from going to cons, from our readers, from our fans, these are the ones that we love the most. You know, we want to see more of this. We want to see more of this character. We kind of took those and extrapolated them out, expanded their world, created their whole supporting cast, and really started diving into those stories and those characters. And so that's what our screenplays and our scripts for series are based off of.
Well, yeah, and that just makes sense, especially for a smaller team like you guys. Like, you think back to even Marvel and DC, like, it starts with one character and it builds off from there. Like, you build up one character and then you build a universe around them.
Absolutely.
I always think, like, the DC universe revolves around Superman and the Marvel universe revolves around Spider-Man. Those are the main characters of those stories. Yeah, so that's really cool. What made you guys go with Vet TV?
Mainly it was because the characters in that story, they were vets, or not vets, they were soldiers. You know, so one of the cool things that we ended up, like, as we were developing that story, as we were putting that film together, and then once it came out, like, the feedback that we got from, like, you know, vets and military community was incredible. Chris was a driving force behind creating those characters, and he knew personally a lot of vets and people who had served, and was able to draw great inspiration. We were able to get great research, you know, just through talking to those people, and so it just made sense for that specific property that would be a great place for it to land and to be able to, you know, find some life there, find an audience there, but also be something where it also speaks to a specific community, and that community, you know, has gotten behind it. And I mean, like, you know, but there's room for other people in that community also, and it honors, you know, soldiers and vets, and, you know, we could go around and around and down all the rabbit holes about the military and US and, you know, and all that stuff. And while, yes, we do, like, touch on, like, I mean, we're storytellers, so we're going to touch on some of the more controversial things when it comes to the military in US and how our vets are treated, and, you know, different opinions about the military and that kind of thing. But that's also very fertile storytelling ground too, you know, to, like, explore those ideas. And, you know, definitely too, down a very specific lane of honoring people who have served, you know. So it was a great matchup.
As somebody that knows a lot of people that went over for the War on Terror stuff, you know, I graduated high school in 06, so, like, my childhood's, like, right in the center of all that. And as somebody who knew a lot of people that went over there and did that, you'll never find someone more critical of the VA than a vet. So you can still respect and love what they did and have a lot of critiques over that stuff, because I know they do. So I get where you're coming from there.
It was also important for us to display those characters, the soldiers in particular, not just as, like, tools of the government, right? Unsuspecting tools of, oh my God, they tricked us. Like, we wanted to have them be displayed or conveyed as heroes, because that's what they are, right? Even if it's on the most basic level of, they decided to dedicate their life to service and defending our country, which is what most people aren't even cut out to do or made for. They made that decision, right? And so it was important to us to portray them in that light as, hey, like, they're not just the tip of the spear or the hammer of our military branch. They're real people who just happen to be heroes, who are doing something because they believe this is what's going to make the world a better place. Now, of course, we dress it up in high-octane action and, you know, the special effects and the dopest fight choreography that you're going to see on the side of the Mississippi. But that's at the heart of it, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I could tell you story after story, as I'm sure you could, Chris, of friends and family members that have served and why they did it. Everything from my brother-in-law, who literally told me, like, well, I got to support your sister somehow, to guys who were gung-ho before they went off, like, no, we got to take down these terrorists. Like, I've heard every story in the books of why people served. And at the end of the day, I feel like even in the most unjust of war, the people serving are heroes in some way, and they've done something heroic in some way.
Yeah.
Even in the most in unjust of circumstances, they're just trying to do what they can do to survive and make sure that the person standing next to them survives. And that's something to be admirable above, because I'd be pissing my pants in that foxhole. I would not be a hero. I'd be the guy the hero's saving. So yeah, all love to that community, all respect to them.
For sure.
Which character was it that got that with Vet TV? I don't think we ever said.
Lieutenant General Richard Bonds is the main character. So he's in Project 365. Interesting story about Lou. He was just a fill-in character, like a side character. We were going through the spreadsheet process, and we had our main character for that storyline, and we were like, we should give him, somebody that's not a sidekick, but somebody who is an aide, right? On the same level, but is his aide, a military liaison even. And so we came up with the idea of Lieutenant General Richard Bonds, made him from Chicago because I'm born and raised in and around Chicago. So I said, let me bring one home for the home team. We got him. And then just organically, as Steph and I kept writing, his character just kept becoming bigger and bigger and bigger. And so we made him the leader of, within Project 365, kind of our Avengers team called the Alpha Initiative. Well, when we got done with Project 365, we wanted to go the graphic novel route. We said, let's do a prequel to the Alpha Initiative Zero. So it was kind of his origin story along with where that program was born and came from. And then from there, fleshed out the story. And then once the graphic novel was done, we met James Gavsey at WonderCon 2018, Steph? 17, 18, I think?
17 or 18, yeah.
And he saw the graphic novel, bought a copy, and then as we continued to work with him and talk with him, the opportunity arose. He said, hey man, I think that Alpha Initiative Zero graphic novel, Lieutenant General Richard Bonds, I think that would be an amazing story to do a film project off of, and the rest is history.
And that's a good way to get us back to comics, because you guys have mentioned doing a few graphic novels here. What's been have the cons been your sole distribution method so far?
Primarily, yeah. I mean, we do sell some stuff over our website, but primarily, like, the in-person going into the cons has been the biggest place where we've kind of made the biggest impact with our books. And like, we have found that, I mean, of course, we're looking to, expand our online reach as far as like our merchandise and things like that. But I mean, we love going to cons, and we have found that like connecting with people and talking to people has been our biggest way of like building a fan base. And, we've been to C2E2 more than any other con. And whenever we go to C2E2, it's always great. People come back and they'll say, oh man, you guys are here. What do you got new for us this year? And then we give them something new, and they're like, oh man, can't wait to see you next year, see what you come back with, that kind of thing. And then just kind of building off of that. And, the more and more people we talk to in the industry, it's great to have these, relationships, not just connections, but you create the relationships by telling them the story of us, telling them the story of our characters. And, that's how we've been able to really kind of worm our way a little bit into some of these rooms that we've gotten to, talk to some of these major companies and people who we've got relationships with, who we're talking different projects with. So it's been really cool. Like, that's been so to answer your question, the short answer is, yeah, that's the main way we've been able to, distribute and connect.
Have you looked into doing like any kind of crowdfunding or getting in the direct market or anything beyond what you're doing right now, I guess?
Yeah.
Yes.
We can't talk about it.
Yeah. But I mean, honestly, like, that's something that we've kind of, that we talked about in the past, but that's like 2026 goals. Like we're like, all right, that's what we're gonna do. Like Chris mentioned, the Requisite, which is a project that we're working on. That one we're beginning to develop a like a crowdfunding campaign for that. Which it's a story where the crowdfunding is actually going to be built into the story in a fun way, almost like I don't know, can we say it, Chris? How
Yeah,
it's going to work?
yeah, we can say, yeah, we can say it. We can
So
say it.
we're kind of like the idea where we have two ways we approach it. One, we're kind of like looking at like a short film of it, but we also are looking at it as like episodes to build a short film, like 2-3 minute episodes, and it is a character who has to fight his way or her way. We won't give that
Yeah,
away.
been casted, yeah.
They have to like fight their way through some things, and the way that the way that they get an extra life is through the crowdfunding. So it's like so it's like, hey, here's episode 1. If they want them to survive episode 2, you guys are gonna have to put a quarter in the machine.
Give me money or I kill the character. All right, everybody.
Pretty much. Pretty much.
If they die, it's on you.
It's on you guys. You didn't raise enough money, so.
No, I love that because it's always. I talk to a lot of crowdfunding creators in the show, and it's always like, how do we make an event out of the crowdfunding? How do we make a spectacle out of it? How do people like interact with it? And that's exactly what you're doing there. Like that's one of the best ways I've heard to do it. It doesn't work for every project, obviously, but it sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Like people can get involved in a real way.
But definitely something that we're interested in, that we're focusing. And as you said, we're a small team and we have a lot of moving parts. So for a couple of years, our focus really turned to getting into the film industry. And so we weren't creating as many like the print stuff. We were really focusing on, all right, how do we get into conversations with these people and how do we get into these doors? So that was our focus for a little while. And while it's still there, we've turned our focus a little bit this year more to, okay, let's go to the people and really use the enthusiasm, that people have for new stuff and what we're doing to, put out some additional projects. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It makes sense to build up the Fervent fan base in the ground floor so that when you do get the big thing down the line, and you guys sound like you will because the passion here is unbelievable. But when that happens, you'll have these thousands of people cheerleading you from the sideline, hopefully be the ones to really promote it from the ground floor. So, I mean, those are the best people to really take care of at the end of the day because they'll take care of you. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I guess I'm looking through your website, though, and one of the things that I was having trouble with, because you guys have said a few times that you were selling the books through the website. Is it through the Creative Extreme website?
Yeah, so we recently migrated our website, what you're seeing now, from a completely different third-party service and server. Mm-hmm. When we migrated it over, we wanted to redo the shop. So currently the shop is not available right now. However, we are in the process of getting it up, and it's going to be up very soon. We've already spoken with the web developer. He's got everything lined up. We just got to push it to the finish line. So I say within the next couple of weeks, that shop will be up, will be available, and then people can go on, buy books, buy T-shirts, the whole nine. But right now, unfortunately, it's what's the 404 error that pops up on the screen? We got a 404 error right now on the shop.
So it's just in the process, though. Yeah.
I ask because a lot of times, especially, I mean, and I get it as a one-man band myself, when you get creators that are working alone or in small teams and they're like, well, nobody buys stuff off my website, and it's like, well, that's cool, I don't know where the shop is on your website, so there's your first problem.
Yes, right. So
but some of you guys put a lot of work in this year.
So when it's up, we got to make sure it's front and center. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Duly noted.
Yeah. Just some button that says shop. I mean, it'd be amazing how many people don't even do that.
Yeah.
No, that's cool. And what could people expect when that shop goes live? You said T-shirts and everything. How many graphic novels do you guys have out?
So we have the Alpha Initiative Zero declassified or classified version, which is kind of like the first preview slash character information detail for the actual graphic novel. Then we have Alpha Initiative Zero Declassified, which is the full graphic novel, the first graphic novel that we put out for that. Then we also have our Project 365 anthology books, which is broken into the first 3 months of Project 365. We took those, extrapolated the months, did extended stories, whole new artwork. We got the big kind of 2-page art designs in there, a whole bunch of extra content with additional comic books inside of those anthology books. So you don't just get Project 365, you get extended stories, new artwork, and you also get a whole new comic book which sets background information in more detail on a particular story arc from within that month. So we have the first week, so we got 3 anthology books on there, and then we have an art book. So our Gotham, our metropolis is called Platinum City. Mm-hmm. Steph, you want to break down Platinum City? Because Platinum City was Steph's brainchild. So break it down for Chris and the people, how you came up with Platinum City.
The short version is that at the beginning, kind of our universe kind of started with this massive earthquake that literally started at the geographical center of the United States, which is roughly Lebanon, Kansas. And the earthquake was one of those, supernatural movie earthquakes where it wasn't just the ground shaking, but it was the ground splitting. And the ground split and continued to split all the way up to Canada and all the way down to Mexico, creating this chasm that runs the whole, that runs up and down the United States, right? So at the time, there was a lot of, we'll say, geopolitical strife, and so, or socio-political strife, and the people had gotten so stratified on their different sides that the representation of the country splitting wasn't just that it was physical, but it was also like that was a representation of how the country. So literally, they built these bridges so that people could move to the side of the country that fit their socio-political ideas. So, and it's not Democrat, Republican. We created a different political system so that we wouldn't be like, so.
So we get all the white guys on one side.
So.
Kidding, everybody, kidding.
So the bridges were built over. It coincided with the rise of people with powers, hyper beings, as we like to call them. But they built bridges, hundreds of bridges over this chasm, so that people can travel back and forth. On top of those bridges, people who were getting tired of the two extreme sides, they began to create communities on the bridges. And then it began to build out until you had an entire city running over thousands of bridges, like interconnected bridges over the chasm. That's where Platinum City comes from. So it's kind of a place where the idea is that people from all sides can come. It kind of represents that diversity. It kind of represents that, not just diversity of people, but diversity of thought and idea is what Platinum City kind of stands for. But of course, within any large city, there's also going to be drama and et cetera, et cetera. But that's kind of like the idea behind Platinum City. So we have some information on that as well.
On Platinum City. And then, so within Platinum City, there are a whole bunch of different sections, as you can imagine. One of those areas within Platinum City, or one of the districts, is called New Japan. And so New Japan is where, it's the Japanese cultural and it's the Japanese population hub within Platinum City. Out of New Japan, we have a few of our main characters, Iori Miyamoto, aka Musashi, and then the Super Samurai, and then we have the Iga clan, who is the clandestine ninja clan, anti-hero group, and obviously they have their connective tissue that brings them together for a lot of action and a lot of stories. But we have an art book, an art collection of New Japan characters, which can also be purchased. So we have that available online. And then again, our t-shirts, Creative Extreme t-shirts, I Am an Original Character t-shirt, all of those will be available to purchase online as well.
The Musashi character, that's the dark yokai, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. That's one of the ones that I saw kind of the breakdown of the character. At first, the Dark Yokai, that's dope concept, awesome design. Like, I love that right there.
Yeah,
Give him his own book right now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're gonna note that we actually have 2 episodes for a streaming series written for the Dark Yokai, so that could be easily adapted into a comic book or 2 to start off. Steph, we can take that back to the next meeting.
Let's go.
And I'm curious. I mean, I think I know why, but for the people out there, why graphic novels and not individual issues?
So the graphic novel that we have for Alpha Initiative was actually derived from the screenplay, the feature-length screenplay that we wrote for Alpha Initiative, and we wanted to get into doing an actual comic book, but the screenplay we have is 120 pages, so we figured, hey man, let's swing for the fences. Let's do an actual graphic novel. Let's really put some story into here and a lot of action. The artists we worked with, who obviously were down to do the graphic novel with us, they said the same thing. They're like, man, why don't we just do like 10 comic books, man? Like break it up into a 10 comic book, series, or 15 or whatever. Like just chop up the whole entire screenplay and do a whole comic book run. And we were like, yeah, I don't know why we didn't think about it. I don't know why we went straight to graphic novel, but that's kind of the direction we took.
So yeah, there's just no. So I'm wrong. I figured a lot of. I know we're starting to see a shift back into the graphic novels in the indie space, just because printing individual issues has become insane.
Yeah.
And you could just jump on Kickstarter to see how insane it's gotten, and it just makes more sense economically now to go graphic novel. And then also it's way nicer. I'm sure you guys are seeing this at the cons. It's way nicer to hand somebody a completed story as opposed to here's the first issue of my 12 issue series. Please come back for the other 11.
Right. Yeah. Agreed. That's interesting because we also often talk about that where, like I said, I work with a lot of writers who are trying to create their story. And the amount of time someone says, and when I ask them, well, what's going on in this part of your story? I don't think I'm really picking it up. And he says, well, it's setting you up for the next book. And I'm like, but you haven't even completed the first book. Like, tell the first story first. And, tell that's, then we can, if people like it, then you can write another story for that character. But don't go in with an incomplete story, like saying like, oh yeah, if you read the next one, so anyway, that's just a small tangent.
It's you guys have read Invincible, right?
Yeah.
Spoilers for Invincible, everybody, but I'm gonna spoil the shit out of the first 2 stories. So there's this old story of Kirkman where the death or the reveal of Omni-Man and who he is wasn't supposed to happen until like 20, 30 issues in. Like that was kind of the big first story arc, was it was going to be this huge thing leading up to this. And I can't remember if Kirkman said it was Larson or somebody else at Image. Was just like, you got to do that within the first like 4 or 5 issues. Or nobody's going to show up for issue 30 if you don't do this early on. Like that's not the story. This is the story. And you need to finish it here or else they're going to jump off because you're trying to build up to something with a character nobody's heard of. And Kirkman to this day says that's one of the best pieces of advice he got because that's why everybody stuck around. It's, oh my god, that's an amazing twist. What is this? And we all stuck around for one of the best superhero comics ever made.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they showed it when they did the cartoon where it's like at the end of the first episode, the first episode, I'm glad that they didn't wait to do that at the end of the first season. It was like, no, it's really the first episode. It was like, oh, okay, yeah, this is what we're dealing with.
Yeah, you had to. In a world where there's so much stuff out there to the point where like I'm trying to find any excuse to drop your comic or to not watch your TV show or whatever. You have to hook me right away because there's too much. There's too much stuff out there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
And like I said, I've just seen so many creators moving to that model because it just makes more sense. So like it's especially I think of Brubaker who moved over to the graphic novel format now, who's just like Yeah, I'm sick of you not buying the whole series. Like, here, buy the whole series off me right now.
Yeah.
I'm sick of you
Don't give
buying
them an
number one
option.
and then dropping off because you thought number one was going to be worth $1 million one day. Like,
Makes sense.
yeah.
It makes sense.
So it sounds like this year you guys have a ton of plans from the Kickstarter to doing some super secret stuff that you're definitely not going to tell me on air right now. Kind of, what's your hope for the future of all this? I mean, is there an end game, or how do you want things to go moving the next couple of years?
That's a big question.
Yeah.
But we say our other motto is "We got next," right? So we're not looking to replace Marvel or DC. I mean, we love Marvel and DC, so we're not looking to replace them, and we're not looking to be an alternative to Marvel and DC. We want to sit at the table with Marvel and DC and say, we got next. Let us step up and let us bring to the world, our content and what we have on that same level. So we're going to continue to put out, as dope content as we can online, but we also want to get into the film and the streaming space, which is why we're writing these feature-length screenplays, is why we're doing these teleplays and putting together these series. And we're looking to dominate both of those industries as well. We want to cover all bases so we can give the fans everything that they want. They want to read, we got your comic books, we got your graphic novels, we got your online content. You want to sit down and watch a dope series, turn on Netflix, HBO, well, if Netflix doesn't buy HBO Max, HBO Max, Amazon, whatever, right? Go there, you can stream it. You want to have a dope movie experience, you can go check us out in your local cinema because we're going to have films up there too. Like, we want everything. So that's what we're looking, like Steph said earlier, global domination. That's what we're looking to do. I mean, we've even talked about eventually getting to a point where it's like, we go the Magic Johnson route, and we open up our own movie theaters. Now you have a Creative Extreme world premiere at a Creative Extreme movie theater in Chicago, in LA, in New York, wherever you are. That's a whole different experience that hasn't even been done yet. I mean, we have so many ideas on how we can bring new stuff to the table, and we just want to do it on a global scale to give people original content and a diverse, massive universe that they can immerse themselves in, right? Like you were saying, Chris, not just one comic book that you hope people come back for the next 11. Like, we're bringing you a whole entire multiverse right now, ready to go. You pick where you want to start. You pick where you want to, set up camp at and really dive in and make that your home. Like, we got you. Just let us know. We'll bring it to you.
And have you had any other creators or other writers in particular? It sounds like you have a lot of artists like knocking at the door to want to work with you.
Yeah, we've had a few come knocking, and just for one, they come knocking because they want some tutelage. So, just kind of because they literally will say to us, they're like, "Oh my goodness, like, you created all these characters," and they'll either be dealing with writer's block or they'll be dealing with like, "Man, how do I develop this or get this, more, make this more rich?" So we've spoken to people about that. Just generally speaking, but I mean, we haven't brought anyone else on per se just yet, but like, once we get into the fact that once we get to the point where we can't handle all the work ourselves, we're gonna, so
sounds like you're close.
But I mean, I say all that to say is that we're open to collaboration. We're open to talking to people about different things because we know that iron sharpens iron, so I mean, you got, it's like, yo, you got some dope ideas, let's bring it on, let's make it happen, so I mean, that's how we came together, bringing our ideas together, so it's been but yeah, and then we're also always definitely looking for different artists who want to work with us too. So it's a very, like Chris said, I'm a huge fan of the Wu-Tang. And when you we know the power of being able to bring a lot of different talented people together to make something amazing. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like, the more the merrier. I mean, it's, you look back at the history of this industry, and it's, Stan Lee and Jack Kirby created something amazing, but it became great. I hate, it became great after them. Like, the people who took over and really built what we know to be Marvel and the MCU today was built the generation or two after those guys created something great. And that's not to say they didn't do something amazing, but
got you.
We think about Christopher Claremont when it comes to X-Men. You know, we think of Walt Simonson when we think of Thor. It's So yeah, it's always great to bring in more people and see what their interpretation of your character is. But guys, you've been phenomenal, and I've taken so much of your time away. So we'll go ahead and wrap things up a little bit here. But so the website, it's going to be, we're going to have a shop up soon. You know, you guys are going to put a nice big banner there for me. It says, Chris, buy something here and all this. But where can people follow you to kind of keep up with what's going on? Do you prefer Substack? Are you on Facebook, X? What's your kind of preferred method of people following you?
Biggest one right now is Instagram. Like we'll be we kind of post on Instagram there, where we share some stuff. We do have a Facebook. Our Instagram is The Creative Extreme, and our Facebook is the same. And then we're on a few other platforms as well. Got some TikTok going. We got we do have an X. Do we still have an X? I think we still have an X. No,
I feel like I'm the only one on there. Sometimes I just tried to contact somebody I haven't talked to in like over a year to get on the show, and I had to contact another friend to be like, "Is he still on? Like, I know he's there, but is he still on it? Do I have to find him on like Blue Sky or something?"
All right, yeah.
I wish we were all on one thing again, but
But we're on all the social media. Just look up The Creative Extreme, and you should be able to find us. Go and follow us. Like our stuff, subscribe. We're on YouTube at The Creative Extreme as well. We have our podcast, The Abbott and the Artista, that we do. We haven't done it in a while because, like Steph said, we kind of just been so focused. Last year, we had a number of film premieres, meetings, writing these screenplays and these teleplays, but we're going to look to get back to recording those episodes and do stuff on The Abbott and Artista. So, like, follow, subscribe, all that stuff, whatever they say for social media. Yeah, and all that.
Definitely. And everybody out there watching, listening, check out the show notes down below. I'll have links to, most importantly, the website and all the social media that you can find these guys at, so you can find out what's going on with them and wait patiently for that online shop to open up and all that. So, guys, like I said, it's been a pleasure. And definitely we'll have to do this once you get that crowdfunding thing going on, and we can talk more about that because you piqued my interest there. So I definitely want to talk to you guys when that's coming out. But it's been a pleasure, and I appreciate you taking the time tonight.
Thank you
Thanks,
so
Chris.
much. It's been amazing. Appreciate you.
Yeah.